the month. Only had 8 responses so far, so good job. I don't know.
You've already had 8.
8. Amazing,
yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So if everybody can go on, that'd be great. There is a link in the newsletter. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you don't have to try to type that all in. If you want to type it all in or take a photo of it and do it later, please do. Please come in. We are going to do 2 things today. We are going to have a presentation this morning, first one from Andy Taylor with Medic, and then we're going to do a quick espresso shots, questions for anybody that has anything that they want to ask of the community. You get about 30 seconds to talk about your company and any asks you have of our community. All right?
So espresso shots?
Espresso shots.
Do we have espresso shots?
We do not.
Oh.
30 seconds is all it takes to drink an espresso.
False advertising.
False advertising. Totally false. Kind of like, it's free coffee, but then we make you sit here the whole time, right? Yeah. So, all right. So, perfect. Well, without further ado, this is Andy with Medic. He's going to talk about some of their upcoming products and what they do over at Medic. So, take it away.
All right. Thank you. So, like I said, my name is Andy Taylor. I am co-founder and president of a nonprofit organization based here at the Frontier called the Medical Innovators Collaborative, or MEDIC for short. And our goal is to increase the amount of new biomedical products and startups that are coming out of the state. So before I get into Medic, first I want to talk a little bit about me. So this is me a year ago before I started Medic. It's been a long year. No, but in all seriousness, when I was born, I had a condition called neonatal jaundice. And what this means is that when I was born, my liver wasn't fully developed. And as a result, I built up a chemical in my blood called bilirubin, which at first causes a jaundicing of the skin. And if it gets severe enough, it can cause neurological damage or death. I was fortunate enough to be born in the United States, where it's very easy to treat. But it's not a very uncommon condition. So 2/3 of infants across the world develop jaundice when they're born. 1/10 of which develop a severe enough case that can lead to disability or death. At least over 100,000 infant deaths across the globe every year. And 6 million babies go without treatment every year for this condition, which is really a shame because the treatment for this disease is very simple. All you have to do is shine a blue light on the baby's skin, and that causes the bilirubin to spin a certain way so that the baby can excrete it. However, the units that provide this therapy cost between $4,000 and $6,000 a piece. They require a constant source of electricity, and the bulbs that they use to provide that blue light cost about $60 a piece and have to be replaced. So in low-income areas, it's not a very feasible solution. So my senior year, I went to NC State in biomedical engineering. My senior year, I was lucky enough to be a part of a team that was passionate about developing solutions for health problems in low-income countries. And over the course of that year, we developed. Whoa, sorry. I jumped a lot. Okay. Over the course of that year, we developed a device that we call the BiliSol, which is a very simple device. It's just a plastic filter that uses the light of the sun to provide phototherapy. So the sun has that blue wavelength in its spectrum. All you have to do is block away the harmful UV radiation, let the blue light through, and you can provide this therapy without any need for electricity. The device costs under $100 a build. So anywhere that you have access to the sun, you now have access to the treatment. And when we found out this device worked, we were ecstatic. I mean, we were going to change the world. We were going to save babies' lives. I was going to become best friends with Bill Gates. I had this whole thing planned out. But unfortunately, life got in the way for us. My team all graduated, and we went on to find jobs, and we just didn't have the time and resources to continue the development of this idea. And unfortunately, it just ended up sitting on a shelf. And that's not an uncommon problem, especially in North Carolina. There's a recent report from the North Carolina Board of Science, Technology, and Innovation that looked at the different states in the country and ranked them economically on different criteria. And what that report found is that our state is fantastic when it comes to research. We actually rank 5th when it comes to federal research funding brought into the state. But when it comes to the commercialization of the research that we develop, we're generally below average. And that's kind of showcased here through that venture capital dispersed statistic. So what are some of the gaps in this ecosystem? And Medic focuses specifically in the medical device space for now. We work with a lot of different groups, one of which is local caregivers and clinicians, so doctors and nurses, who they're on the front lines of healthcare, identifying unmet medical needs all the time. and oftentimes coming up with ideas for solutions to the problems that they've identified, but they typically lack the time or know-how it takes to turn those ideas into tangible products. At the same time, the universities in the area are pumping out tons of student talent that are clamoring for internships, especially in the life science space. And there just isn't enough, there aren't enough opportunities in the area to meet the demand. And so a lot of times the students that we develop within North Carolina have to leave the state to go find relevant training opportunities. And in general, when it comes to the medical device space, while there are a lot of components in the Research Triangle area, there's not a very cohesive community around the medical device field. So Medic is positioning itself to be right in the center of this group to help knock out all these problems kind of with one stone. So we mainly do this by pairing those innovative clinicians who have these great ideas for new devices with student teams who have the time and resources to develop them, and we help train and manage those students to help push these ideas forward to develop more medical products in the area. We've been around for about a year now. We've developed a lot of friends and partnerships along the way. We like to collaborate as much as possible, so much so that's in our name, Medical Innovators Collaborative, and we've built a lot of great relationships over the year. And we have a lot of partners that are helping contribute resources towards these projects now as well. So it's not just teams of students that are trying to build little gadgets and doodads. We actually have local partners in areas such as FDA regulations, reimbursement, patent strategy, who are all contributing resources to help guide these projects down the right path. And we also do work with local companies as well. We currently have projects with BD as well as United Therapeutics, where we help students get exposed to industry environments and help them push along some of their earlier skunkworks ideas. So this is the current team for the project. Like I said, I'm the president and co-founder of the company. These are some of the other co-founders. This is our current board, which includes local attorneys, surgeons, as well as local industry members from the medical device industry. And these are some of the milestones that the company has accomplished to date. So we formed last September, and since then we've gained about $95,000 in grant funding. We've worked on 7 different projects. And we've worked with about 21 student interns between Duke, UNC, and NC State. And as of March 21st, we achieved 501c3 nonprofit status. We also hold events in the area. I'm not going to go too deep into that due to time. But this is kind of the goal for the next year. So starting in 2018, Medic is going to be developing 15 medical technologies every year. And the goal of that is to pump out up to 5 new medical device companies every year starting in 2018. And through that, we'll be training 75 students in the area in things like FDA regulations, reimbursement, and just the medical device development process in general. And the output of those technologies, or what those companies are going to be, is a built and validated prototype, protected intellectual property, the beginnings of a design history file for FDA regulation, as well as reimbursement analyzation and spin-out funding secured for each company. That's kind of the start, our initial vision. We're starting in the medical device space, and we have plans to expand this model into other industries such as pharmaceuticals, biotech, and even agricultural technology, other areas of strength in North Carolina down the road. And the story that I told you at the beginning actually has a happy ending. So since Medic was founded, we've been able to continue the development of the Billy Soul. In fact, this past January, myself and another member of that initial senior design team were able to go back to Guatemala, where we worked on our senior design project, and develop a couple of prototypes to a local hospital there. And we're continuing this work with the local Rotary chapter and hoping to work with the Rotary International Group to continue to get this device out there and gather some user feedback on the device. And if throughout this presentation you've wondered to yourself, man, how can I support this amazing nonprofit organization? You're in luck, because just this week we started our first ever fundraising campaign. You can go to learn more about it on our website, medic-nc.org. Our goal over the next 2 weeks is to raise $50,000 to go towards that 15 technology year process. So that's the presentation that I have right now. I was hoping to, through this event, talk to you guys a little bit more and gather some feedback on the presentation in general, as well as start to think about the Billy Soul device and think about potential ways that it could help to get the device out there more, because one of the struggles that we've been having with the Billy Soul is actually getting it out and getting user feedback. And also one area that we've been kind of struggling with that I would like to gather some feedback from you all on is potential creative ways that we can use to make a sustainable program around the Billy Soul. Since it is such a cheap device and so simple, we aren't able to get a patent around it. And so one thing that we've been struggling with is figuring out a way to continue that project moving forward and help make it a self-sustaining project. So that's the presentation I have for now. So
Perfect, thanks. All right, does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask or any input?
Yeah.
Hi. So I actually was also trained as a biomedical engineer. So I guess my question is more about design.
Yeah.
Why did you only do one sheet on top as opposed to a box or at least a 3/4 box like mechanism?
Yeah. So that was kind of our first prototype. We built it with just one sheet to make it as simple as possible. The other reason is for the device, one important thing when you're designing global health devices is to take into consideration cultural compliance. And a big thing when you, especially outside of Western medicine, is that new mothers are less okay with just kind of handing their baby off to the doctor and letting the doctor take care of it as they are in the U.S. So one thing that we want to maintain with the use of this device is to be able to have the mother stay in contact with the infant throughout the therapy. So the idea was that the mother could hold the baby while the filter was over the top of them, so they could maintain that mother-infant contact. Right here.
Hi, good morning. I don't know if I missed it in your presentation, but how many children have actually benefited so far from this therapy?
From phototherapy in general, it's a very widely used device. For my device, so we haven't used the device on any infants yet. We took the device to Guatemala to get some feedback. Unfortunately, after we delivered the prototypes there, the healthcare system in Guatemala went on strike. So as far as I know, the device has been locked into the hospitals that we delivered to and haven't been used at all. And that's one of the struggles that we've had. Is we haven't been able to gather user feedback, and we're working on developing more connections through working with the Rotary Club to get the device out there and receive more feedback.
So does this device require FDA approval?
So the device would need to be FDA approved. It's a pretty simple process because essentially what the device is a radiation shield, which is a Class 1 device. So it'd be a pretty easy approval process.
Yes, I've been fortunate to be a part of a Rotary Club here in the area. See me after this. I know a club that does some great work in that area. They send a dental mission each year, and maybe something that you could partner with and possibly go with that group.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, I'm not a scientist and I don't play one on TV, and so my question is going to come from an entirely different angle. It's part comment too. And you helped answer one of my own questions, why there's such a dearth of VC presence in this area, and there's this gap. It's really interesting, but I think that what you're creating here is exacerbating the problem. Why are you a nonprofit? That to me, you have such a massive opportunity here to turn all this around and you can make enough money by fixing the what I'll call foundational problems with this area. You can make enough money to give those damn things away to every hospital across the world. I mean, philanthropy, charity has to start at home. And I think that you're really onto something in terms of just the structure and the thinking of matching real talent to real products, to real things that can benefit people, but you're going to make a lot of money doing it. I could see turning this into some kind of pro-working organization where you're linking all this young talent to products, to capital right now, and getting this pipeline built so that you almost solve the problem in and of by yourself. That's just how I'm seeing it. That's what's coming to my mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing that people bring up and people ask often is why we decided to set up Medic as a nonprofit. It's a for-profit organization. And the thought process when we initially started was that we were developing an organization that was serving the community, and also the education factor was such a huge part of what we were doing. And so that gave us access to, as being a nonprofit, it gives us access to certain grants and foundations that we wouldn't have access to as a for-profit organization. So that was the initial thought process why we did it as a nonprofit. But we're not, our goal is not to be the nonprofit that raises a set of funding and then spends it and raises and spends it and constantly lives out life cycle. We are coming at it from the startup mentality, trying to make Medic into a self-sustaining operation.
Andy over here. Two things. One thing is you might have good luck partnering with global development researchers and evaluators, people who are already in countries. I can give you some contacts with those people who are testing often and researching often in the kind of settings that you're looking for.
Yeah.
The second part is I'm on Medic's website. I'm looking for the Billy bot. I'm looking for what you're talking about. I can't find it. I think a big marketing push and spinning off individual products and giving them their own unique life on the web would really help too.
Yeah, that's a good point. The website is currently in a pretty big redesign. Since we're doing our first ever fundraising campaign over the next couple of weeks, we had a lot of content on the website, but it was all text-based, and in my mind, it was a little bit intimidating when you first visit it, and so I kind of took a lot of that work off, and we're working on building that back out and making it very visual. But yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Hi. Are you aware of, my name is Carol. We had 2 weeks ago, last Wednesday night, we had young college students from Duke, NC State, and UNC. We had about 82 students, and I was one of the judges with some of those medical devices. Are you aware of that association?
Which association was
It's
that?
called North Carolina University Young Entrepreneur Medical Device. It was here in this building here. It was for about almost 5 hours, and I was one of the judges in there. Are you aware of that one?
I have not been connected with that group, no.
Yeah, it was here. I mean, we had about almost 82 student kids with some of this medical device and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to learn more about
Yeah, and I would recommend, I've been designing, I've done for 27 years, I designed respiratory line equipment and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, to have it FDA takes longer. Maybe you might want to take it outside, but I'll give you the quote that we had about 82 students, freshmen and not even graduate students with all these medical devices. It was here at the Frontier.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to learn more about it. Thank you.
Any other questions? One more.
Hi again. So one of the things I've always noticed about working with, I guess, doctors in general is that when you pointed it out too in your presentation that they're more worried about the medicine than kind of beyond that. Yes, they can see the gaps and going beyond that. I guess and you did show your team. I guess I don't know about necessarily the background. I know some of the people, other people on your board of directors, but so you're looking to build out your team? Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out if you're going to be doing the fundraising campaign and maybe some other things, like how are you, or are you even looking to expand? How is that going to work? I guess because you will end up having more things to do just in general than just fundraising and getting the research getting the connections with people who have those devices and that type of thing. So what is your growth strategy from here?
Yeah, so right now, as Medic stands, I'm currently the only full-time employee. So I've been the one kind of boots on the ground around the show. Tim Martin, who currently works at the Office of Commercialization and Economic Development for UNC, he's kind of the other half of Medic, but he has a full-time job, so he isn't able to put as much time in. What we're working on right now, a big thing that we're doing kind of at the same time as the fundraising campaign is identifying kind of some initial hires for us, and we're looking to bring in a project manager to help manage all the different projects we're going to be bringing in over the next year. We're looking to bring in someone to help us build out our quality management system. We're hoping to bring in a legal intern to help build out the legal documentation for like spinning out companies, things like that. There's a lot of legal work that goes into that. So we're working on hiring kind of a suite of interns to help out with the process right now. And the ultimate goal with the fundraising that we're doing is to get to the point where we can bring on a second full-time person so I can focus more on the fundraising moving forward and they can focus more on the projects.
Andy, first of all, thanks for sharing. Very interesting project. A couple of items. One, if you're not familiar with the organization FHI 360. Okay. Second of all, can you elaborate a bit more on the comments that you made around our existing pool of graduates in this space are leaving the state? And one of the activities that I think you mentioned on your slide was MEDIC is going to train and manage the students in addressing some of these medical device projects. Can you talk a little bit more about how you do that and who funds that and how that plays out?
Yeah. So the way that it looks like is every project that we bring in, we kind of do an initial evaluation to look at what different gaps that project has, what it needs to be developed. Because every technology that comes in that we bring in has different needs. So some, haven't had a patent filed, some have a patent, but they don't know how to build it. Each technology is at its own stage. And so the first thing that we do is look at that and figure out what students would be the best fit for that project. So whether it's, certain disciplines of engineering, whether it's business students, design students, and then the next step is that we send out that call to the local departments at the universities to pull on that student team. Typically each project gets around 4 or 5 students, and then we help to, help give them deliverables, help them continue moving the project forward, and guide them through the process of developing the technology.
Hey Andy, just a follow-up question to that. In terms of the interns in demand and supply, do you have a lot of interns available in this area? You're not able to hire them, or what is the demand and supply situation?
For us, we haven't had any shortage of student interns for the projects we've been working on so far. We typically get, when we send out a call, anywhere between 40 and 50 students on each individual project. And it's not often the same folks that are applying. So we haven't had any shortage for that so far. There seemed to be a lot of interest.
So it looks like you've had 2 really great ideas, right? Billy Soul is one, MEDIC is another, and they obviously relate, they're connected. But my suggestion would be that both of those are worthy of their own presentation. And I think by putting them together the way you have, you may sort of be diffusing the message and the impact.
Okay.
And so I would recommend, if you're going to talk about MEDIC, focus on the mission of MEDIC, because it's a very powerful mission, and I think it resonates with everybody here. And a slide on Billy Soul, how that fits in, that would make sense. Or on the other side, if you're doing Billy Soul, you can see where MEDIC is part of that. But focus on one or the other, and I think you probably get an even stronger response on both of those. Right now, I'm working through both of the issues in my mind, and it'd probably be more effective if we just handle one at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense. The idea for putting the Billy Soul in the presentation was kind of highlight the need that we're addressing,
right?
Because that's kind of my personal experience with that. But I see where you're coming from, where I may have put a little bit too much time into the case study.
I'm going to respectfully disagree and agree at the same time. I think the Billy Soul is your why, and it's the reason why MEDIC came into being. So I think that's an essential part of the story. I think the fact that you've now created something that will allow similar companies to hopefully get across the finish line is key. What I will agree on is maybe start with that, but spend a little more time on the meat of MEDIC, with maybe touching on hopefully some success with Billy Soul at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to add to that, you have had other projects going on, right?
Yeah, we have.
So in a sense, you have a portfolio that you might talk about, at least depending on how you feel about them or their success or whatever people are going to know what else. Story is about the Billy Soul as how it got started, but then all of these other things that have been generated. Maybe an example of the collaboration with the physicians and other student innovator teams. That would be great as well. And I may be confused, but I know that there's been some other student physician types of collaborations going on that are similar. I don't know if it's been within MEDIC or the precursor to MEDIC or whatever, but those are always good
Thank you. Yeah, we have had other projects